Are you concerned that the United States is behaving within the bounds of international law?
Look, when we voted for President Trump, we didn't vote him to be the international president. We voted him to be the president of the United States.
Before we jump in, tell me where you're tuning in from. And remember to like and subscribe. Your support helps the channel grow and keeps these stories coming. This is genuinely one of the most revealing interviews you'll see in a long time. On the surface, it starts off looking like a routine, almost dull political discussion about the Epstein files, the kind of conversation you might half listen to while doing something else. But stay with it, because buried inside this exchange is one of the most precise journalistic traps you'll ever witness. What begins as legal deflection and technical language slowly tightens into something far more serious. With just a few carefully chosen questions, the journalist steers the conversation toward the foundations of power, accountability, and the rule of law. And then it happens, a moment so blunt, so unguarded, that it exposes what this worldview actually believes when the talking points fall away. This isn't a gaffe. It isn't a slip. It's a clear admission that tells you exactly how far some people are willing to go when defending authority. If you care about how power is justified, ignored, or outright dismissed, this is one of those moments you need to see for yourself. So let's watch this together. And once it's over, I'll come back and break down exactly why that final answer matters more than anything else that was said.
Let's turn now to Peter Lumage, who's a businessman, attorney, Republican strategist, joining us live this morning from Connecticut, where it is very early in the morning. So we're particularly grateful to Peter for sparing this time over the Christmas holidays for doing that. Peter, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Were you surprised by some of the redactions and the documents that apparently are missing and have not been fully published as required under the Act?
Actually, not at all, because when you look at the act that Congress passed, they ordered the Department of Justice to release all the unclassified documents. And, the question is what is classified and what is unclassified. Some of the investigations are still going on, and we have a very complicated and complex legal system in the United States that certain grand jury investigations still remain very confidential, very secret, that they are held in secrecy. And that is part of the justice system in the United States that should be respected. You need the court actually to order the release of such documents. And, when you read the act itself, it's included there that unless the court approves it, unless they are unclassified documents. And, I think the Justice Department is doing the best with this complex, file called the Epstein files. And they are caught between the public opinion that they want to see everything. And at the end, I think we're going to see all the files, being made public. But the question is, what we have seen so far actually doesn't change anything with regard to what the public believes. We believe that certain powerful men in the United States, including the United Kingdom, they were involved in these, so-called Epstein files. And, some of them have started paying a price already. When you look at Prince Andrew, you look at Larry Summers, Bill Clinton may be called before Congress to testify as to what he knows of this. And he's going to be the main target, for lack of a better term, because if he refuses to appear before Congress, he can be held in contempt of Congress. If he appears before Congress, he may take the fifth. If he takes the fifth, then they may give him immunity, and he's going to have to testify under oath. If he makes any perjury statements, he may be charged with perjury.
But you will know, Peter, you will know, Peter, that a spokesperson for President Clinton has accused the White House of using him as a scapegoat after pictures of the former president with Jeffrey Epstein were released. The White House, they say, hasn't been hiding these files for months, only to dump them late on a Friday to protect Bill Clinton, the spokesperson said on X. This is about shielding themselves from what comes next or what they'll try and hide forever, so they can release as many grainy 20-plus-year-old photos as they want. But this isn't about Bill Clinton, never has been, never will be.
Well, the statute of limitation is expired. They cannot charge Clinton with any crimes, no question about it. The only way they can charge him, as I said, if they call him to come before Congress to testify, and if he refuses to do that, he will be held in contempt. But the other thing about
this is mysterious, isn't it, Peter? It's mysterious. Some people might think that it's quite convenient that of the files that have been released, there are loads of pictures of Bill Clinton that just happen to be in the cache, but perhaps not many of others who might be a little bit more politically embarrassing to the administration.
Well, look, they are trying to get photos if Trump was involved, if he's got any, compromising photos. But as it turns, so far, we haven't seen that. It doesn't look like Trump is afraid to have them released. And, one thing that the public is very convinced is that if the Biden administration knew that there were any photos compromising Trump in this kind of relationship with Epstein, he could have ordered the release of those files before the election of 2024. Why didn't he do that? So the public doesn't believe that Trump is part of this this investigation, or he will be embarrassed somehow, because he severed relationship with Epstein a while back when he figured out that he was not a proper individual to be invited to Mar-a-Lago any longer, to have a relationship with him. But look, it's interesting that the investigation that is going to continue is going to be more a public investigation, if you will, trying to persuade one way or the other the public opinion, or the Democrats or the Republicans, for the 2026 election. The midterm election next year is extremely important in the United States, because 1/3 of the United States Senate is up for re-election. The entire House is up for re-election. If Trump loses the House, he's going to become a president who is not going to have much power to execute his policies. So this is not only making sure that the public knows what Epstein did. They don't care at this point. This is more a political move from both sides, I would say, to convince or to persuade their voters that 2026 is important, and therefore the Democrats are the bad, part of the political spectrum, or the Republicans, or vice versa. So this is going to become very, very political in the months to come.
Well, as you know, Brian, Peter, this isn't just criticism coming from Democrats about this. Brian Darling, Republican strategist, the heavily redacted disclosures just add more fuel to the fire. That is something that is being Republican Representative Thomas Massey, who co-authored the transparency law, said the partial release grossly fails to comply with both the spirit and the letter of the law. So that is a Republican who has spearheaded this, saying that the Trump administration is not obeying the law, and therefore just adds fuel to paranoia and conspiracy which may exist.
Well, both of them signed the act that says release the unclassified documents. I mean, they could have just changed the word in unclassified to classified, or the entire file. I mean, when you read this from the legal point of view, pretty much they gave the Trump administration and the Justice Department a way out of it by phrasing it. Or
it makes it look like the Trump administration has got something to hide, whether that's fair or unfair.
I think that they don't have anything to hide. What they are doing, they are holding more or withholding more information to release it later on that may be even more embarrassing for the Democrats. We're waiting to see if that is the case, and a lot of people believe that is the case. I mean, there are speculation, and still continuing just speculation, that the entire Epstein, thing has to do with, intelligence agencies and you name it. I mean, the Trump administration is not even disputing the fact that there are allegations out there that were made that may be very sensitive to make them public. Now, if the Democrats and the Republicans keep on pushing that it should be released, and it will be released, most likely it is going to be the Democrats who are going to pay a heavier price than the Republicans in 2026, because most of the people who may be involved, who have been involved so far, including Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Kevin Spacey, Richard Branson.
And yet it's Donald Trump. If that were the case, why doesn't Trump just put them out there? If he's got nothing to hide, put them out there. You'll know, Peter. You'll know that Marjorie Taylor Greene, who admittedly has fallen out with Trump in a big way, but nonetheless had been an absolute foot soldier of the MAGA movement, tweeted at the weekend, "My goodness, what is in the Epstein files? Release all the files. It is literally the law." She says people are raging in the MAGA base, Trump's own base, and walking away from him over this.
I, to a certain extent, I agree with her, but releasing the entire files, whatever that is supposed to mean, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pages over here. The other thing, as I said, investigations are still going on. You may see victims coming forth to testify before Congress. We may see people being charged, actually, by the Department of Justice. So you cannot reveal, or you cannot make public files that are still being investigated, because you're compromising the investigation. And I don't think the Justice Department would do that or jeopardize. Otherwise, you're going to have to try the charges. The other thing, as I said, the grand jury investigation, which is the foundation of our legal system, has to remain intact. And if we release those files without the court's approval, you're jeopardizing the constitutional foundation of this country, and you're making a president. So I don't think the Justice Department is going to fall for that just because there is some public pressure.
Talking about the constitutional state of the country, you're an attorney. Are you concerned at all about the United States behaving in an extra-legal way, and in terms of international law, in terms of what it's doing in Venezuela at the moment? Illegally closing airspace, illegally, without due cause, seizing ships, international ships, taking military action without any UN approval. Are you concerned that the United States is behaving within the bounds of international law?
Look, when we voted for President Trump, we didn't vote him to be the international president. We voted him to be the president of the United States.
So international law doesn't matter to the United States?
No, the confines of the Constitution are the significant part of our foundation. And if he violates the United States Constitution, he can be subject to impeachment in the United States. But when it comes to international law, he's not violating international law. As a matter of fact, he's enforcing the embargoes that were improved, most of them approved by the United Nations, which is part of the international law. But the international law doesn't have a good track record when it comes to the United States. And
it's pretty basic. It's pretty basic, Peter. You don't close another country's airspace without a good reason, without a legal reason. And they've just done it because President Trump fancies doing it.
The main definition of the job, of the President of the United States is to provide security for the American people. The American people, the United States right now is being threatened by Venezuela and the narco-trafficking.
His own base don't like it. His own base doesn't like it.
Look, no, the base is not disapproving this. The base is not. I mean, when you look at the polling that is coming out, actually, the base is still sticking with Donald Trump, and pretty much they're saying we voted for this. We want a president who will protect the United States. We lost more people because of Venezuela and Mexico in the United States last year that we lost actually during the Vietnam War. So we're losing Americans because of their policies and bringing those lethal drugs to the United States. And Trump is ordering them to stop it. They didn't stop it. Now they're paying a price. So the international law in this case should not apply to the United States when they are jeopardizing, these nations are jeopardizing our safety.
Peter Lumaj there, attorney, businessman, Republican strategist, joining us live generously at this time of the morning, 6:45 in Connecticut. So Merry Christmas to you, Peter, and grateful for your time.
So there it is. That's the moment the mask fully slips. What began as a routine exercise in legal deflection, layered with jargon, technicalities, and familiar whataboutism around the Epstein files, ends somewhere far more revealing. Not with confusion, not with evasion, but with a blunt admission that cuts straight to the core of the worldview on display. When pressed just a little harder, the argument collapses into something unmistakable. International law simply doesn't matter to them. Not as a principle, not as a constraint, not even as a courtesy. And that wasn't a stumble or a poorly phrased sentence. It was clarity. The kind that only appears when someone stops pretending they care about the rules at all. That's why this moment matters. The host didn't raise his voice. He didn't grandstand. He just set the trap and let the logic run its course. And in doing so, he exposed the foundational belief behind the rhetoric. That America first doesn't just mean prioritizing domestic interests. It means placing American power above any external law, agreement, or shared standard. The most striking part isn't even the answer itself. It's how casually it was delivered. No hesitation, no awareness that anything controversial had been said, just confidence, as if dismissing the rule of law beyond national borders was not only acceptable, but obvious. So what stood out to you the most? The outright rejection of international law, or the fact that it didn't even register as a problem in the moment? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown useful, make sure you give it a like for more moments like this.